Today we would be talking about The Spider and the Bee. This is an essay written by Swift, which is there in your syllabus, and this is an excerpt. It has been extracted from Swift's famous book, The Battle of the Books, which was basically a satire, and it was published in 1704, and among with the A Tale of a Tub, written by Swift himself. And Swift was contemporary of essays like Edison, Steele, and prose and verse writer like Alexander Pope. And he was great essayist, and his books like Gulliver's Travels or A Tale of Tub are very famous, and he's famous for the satire which he made on society, the satire which was pointed against the hypocrisy of mankind, or various political stunts played by the statesmen at that point of time. So he is more known for his satire, and less known for essays or prose writings. The sting of the his satires is very famous, and in a very subtle way, like in Gulliver's Travels, in a very subtle way, he makes a comment upon the entire human society, how their behavior, their hypocrisy, their double standards, their false sense of right or wrong. So, in a way, Swift was a child of his own times, and his writings are very famous, and many of his writings have been included in the syllabus of well-known universities. And in this particular episode, The Spider and the Bee, which has come from his book, The Battle of the Books, is in this particular episode, or in this book in itself, The Battle of the Books, has been influenced by a controversy or a quarrel which was going between the writers as to um, who is greater, the ancient writers are greater or the modern writers are greater. And William Temple wrote that the modern writers are basically very shallow writers, and they have attained everything by copying the ancients, and who had given them a lot many writings as their progeny, and they had nothing to do but to take benefit of the writings of the ancients and then move, but they do not have much of merit in themselves, and their writings in themselves lack the repute and the standards which were maintained by the ancients. So somewhere there was already a controversy going on. And Swift was influenced by this theme, and he wrote a book, The Battle of the Books. And in this book there is a battle between the ancient books and the modern books, and the ancient books are represented by the ancient authors, the modern books are represented by the modern authors. And these ancient writers were these books, they are there in the battlefield, and there is a whole army which is there, and these the army of ancients include Homer, Pindar, Aristotle, Plato, and the army of moderns include Milton, Hobbes, Dryden. So, so it is mock heroic. This work is a mock heroic prose as well, and it is in a form of satire. It is mocking the very frame of battle, and this battle is between the books represented by their lords, books represented by their kings in the form of the authors and the poets over there. So the controversy saying that ancients were greater, whatever has come from Rome or Greece, that is greater, and the rest, the rest of the world who had copied them, or who had used science or modern structure for their writings, they do not hold merit, because they are shallow, and they lack substance. So this type of controversy was already there, and somewhere Swift was influenced by this controversy. He was associated with William Temple as well, and he took this as a theme of his own book, and wrote an essay, wrote a prose writing, a book on this topic. And this particular essay, or this is an extract from this book itself, The Battle of the Books, and it is titled as The Spider and the Bee, and it is there in your syllabus. And he begins with things were at this crisis when a material accident fell out, for upon the highest corner of a large window there was a spider, swollen up to the first magnitude by the destruction of large numbers of flies, whose bodies lay scattered before the gates of his palace like human bones before the cave of some great destructor. Now, if you read these lines, or if you go through these lines, he begins with begins with the spider who has been living in a palace, and who has destroyed that palace. So he begins with what destruction, the destruction which has been carried out by spider, and then he would be talking about bee. So when he's talking about spider and bee, he is talking about the ancients, and he's talking about the moderns and the ancients respectively. So there is a discussion, or there is an argument between the spider and the bee, and then we have a reference to bee, where spider is talking to bee, and he's saying, "It is you that have made the litter here. Could not you look before you? Do you think I have nothing else to do but to mend and repair after your arise?" Then he say, "Good words, friend," said the bee. Now bee is answering to the spider, having now pruned himself and being disposed to droll, "I'll give you my hand and word to come near your kennel no more. I was never in a such confounded pickle since I was born." Then there is another line by Spider, who says, "If it were not for breaking an old custom in our family, never abroad against an enemy, I should come and teach you better manners. I pray have patience." Then B says, "Or you'll spend your substance, and for I see you may stand in need of it all toward the repair of your house." And then Spider replies, "Methink you should have more respect to a person whom all the world allows to be so much your better." Then B replies, the comparison will amount to a very good jest, and you will do me a favor to let me know the reason that all the world is pleased to use in so hopeful a dispute. And this is how somewhere Swift is trying to give arguments from both the sides, from the sides of moderns as well as from the sides of the ancients. But somewhere, if you ask me, I would somewhere feel that he is trying to be balanced at most of the places without showing his indulgence for any particular style of writing. And then you says there is a famous dialogue which is given by Spider, and this dialogue is by the comparison with such a rascal, what are thou but a person who is without a home, without stock or inheritance, born to no possession of your own, but a pair of wings and a drone pipe. Your livelihood is a universal plunder upon nature, a freebooter over fields and gardens, and for the sake of stealing will rob a nettle as easily as a violet. Now, the spider is talking about himself, whereas I am a domestic animal furnished with native stock within myself. This large castle to show my improvements in the mathematics is all built with my own hands and the materials extracted altogether out of my own person. Now, in these, there are certain lines or certain expressions where we feel that Swift has not spared both the parties, and but somewhere he has been bit lenient with the ancients, and the words or the adjectives which are used for the ancients are are liberal or are diluted as well, but the adjectives which are used for moderns are very sarcastic, and their pang is or their sting is greater than those or those which are led against the modern against the ancients. I am glad, answered the bee, to hear your grant at least that I am come honestly by my wings and my voice, for then it seems I am obliged to heaven alone for my flights and my music, and Providence would never have bestowed on me two such gifts without designing them for the noblest ends. I visit indeed all the flowers and blossoms of fields and gardens, but whatever I collect from thence enriches myself without the least injury to their beauty, their smell, or their taste. Now for you and your skill in architecture and other mathematics, I have little to say. In that building of yours, there might for all I know I have been labor and method enough, but by experience for us both, it's too plain the materials, and I hope you will henceforth take warning and consider duration and matter as well as method and art. Now, duration, method, art. Now, these are the allegations which are led against the spider by B. Now, we could see that B has been projected as someone who's very romantic, who loves nature, who has not borrowed, or who's not artificial in taking advantage, who's not been artificial in his manner, or who has a unique art, or who has been gifted with art, or who's been gifted with beauty, or who has been gifted with the sense of goodness, whereas a spider has been treated as something who's very artificial, something someone who just borrows artificially, someone who just relies unnaturally upon mathematics or science, or someone who is completely a false personality. So somewhere we feel that Swift had been critical of spider, more critical of a spider and less critical of bees. Then this is how this argument between the bee and the spider continues. And then we have again B speaking, that we have admirably managed to uh, uh, take care of nature. We have managed the role of our ancients, and we have borrowed from them. We have borrowed a great quality of work from them. And there is someone who is interfering in this war, and then making a remark that someone who's representing the ancients, and he's making a remark that they that have admirably managed the dispute between them, have taken in full strength of all that is to be said on both sides, and exhausted the substance of every argument pro and con. It is but to adjust the reasoning of both to the present quarrel, than to compare and apply the labors and fruits of each, and as the bee has deduced them, and we shall find the conclusion full plain and close upon the moderns and us. Now, somebody is presenting from the side of ancients, and then we have and we would see that it concludes before it concludes. We have again someone who's talking from the side of moderns, and he says that he is or that moderns are famous for their architecture, moderns are famous for their mathematics, moderns have a great sense of structure. Then there is an argument in the favor of ancients, that they have inherent quality of goodness, or of a greater intellect than the moderns. Then again we have concluding, as far as this essay is concerned, we have a concluding statement by Swift, and this is the last statement by Swift, as he says, as for the ancients, we are content with the bee to pretend to nothing of our own beyond our wings and a voice, that is to say, our flights and our language. For the rest, whatever we have got has been by labor, by search, and ranging through every corner of nature. The difference is that instead of dirt and poison, we have rather chosen to fill our hives and honey and wax, that furnishing mankind with two noblest things, which are sweetness and light. So the concluding statement is from the side of the bee. So somewhere critics feel that when he talks of sweetness and light, and when he talks of nature, when he talks of honey, when he talks of hives, when he talks of wax, Swift is somewhere on the side of the bee in this essay. And he is since he was associated was associated in some way with the to in some way he was associated with whatever William Temple was writing. So somewhere he has his bent or his bias for the bee. And he concludes in this particular essay, he concludes with a statement from bee that they give sweetness and light to the entire world. So this is how this particular excerpt is finishes in the in your syllabus. It finishes with the line that bee gives you sweetness and light. And this is somewhere we can take a concluding, we can take it as a concluded statement from Swift himself, that bee gives you sweetness and light.